This is Take Two.
In fairness, I want this to be like a really good chat, really, rather than a interview.
Yeah, because realistically, I don't know you.
Yeah, and you don't know me.
Exactly.
Oh, wait, that's the same thing.
So yeah,
right?
like we spoke back and forth on Instagram a few times. But
Yeah, you
never-
came through from Finn, right?
Yeah, so I met Finn in Spain, and then through that kind of like met a bunch of people, I guess, like in the more creative space in Dublin, I guess.
It's so interesting that nearly every independent Irish person just goes over to Barcelona. It's like a path of life,
Yep.
nearly. It's like, okay, I'm going to Barcelona.
Yeah, there's a huge huge mix of people in Barcelona at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of it is people, obviously with like the housing crisis, it's like a huge like escapism thing as well. Like I think a lot of people would just rather not face the stuff that's happening here and then just go to Spain.
Yeah.
So whether it's Barcelona or like different countries,
You
people
did
just
Portugal
go.
as well, right?
Yeah. So I was in Lisbon for a while. I was in Lisbon for like 4 months.
Okay.
So I preferred Spain when I was there because I think Portugal was just like a shock in terms of like the language is completely different. Everything was kind of the same in terms of like the people were really nice, everything else was really nice, but other than that, it was kind of just like I definitely preferred the lifestyle in Barcelona more, like the skating, the beach, having all that stuff. In Lisbon, there wasn't much of that I could get
You had
into
drugs.
as fast.
Yeah, there were drugs.
In
Lisbon.
yeah,
That's basically it. But then also if you're sober.
yeah, it's not. Yeah, like that's the biggest thing for me. Like traveling in general is like since I am sober, there's no. I don't see the benefit of like when people are like, oh, like Bali has like crazy parties or like Spain has crazy parties or stuff like this. It's like it doesn't interest me.
I find the lifestyles that like no expats are taking up in Bali so interesting because it's like you're you're doing ayahuasca, you're doing yoga, but then you're fully just snorting God knows what at night.
Yeah, yeah.
And like that's not really culture. It's
Yeah,
fun if like that's up for you, you know what I mean? But you're not fucking living the yogi lifestyle.
No, yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people.
Westernization.
A lot of people as well are like fixated on the. I think I noticed it fully when I was in Barcelona for the 2 years. Was like how much people are just. Because I was meeting new people, it wasn't just the same people as around, but I was meeting new people that just had this like escapism lifestyle of. You would meet people and you're like, oh, what was the issue back home? They'd have some form of like. I wouldn't say minute issues because everybody has like their own stuff that's going on. But they had like issues that they had like ongoing. And the easiest fix was pick up everything and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But then when they go somewhere else, there's like almost a window of like, I would say like 5 or 6 months where you can live off your savings. You can like enjoy what you're doing. Basically like have fun. Like people go out party, do drugs, like drink, do whatever they want. But after those 6 months when you actually have to get a job and you have to like go back to a normal lifestyle in a new country, people end up just going home. And it happened time and time again when I was away.
Sure. Like, I say this all the time. Your problems travel with you. Unless you fucking solve them properly. As in a different country. Like, at the end of the day, then the beach is going to become normal. The sun is going to become too hot as well. How often do you hear people complaining over here about the weather? But then you, like, step foot in a hot country and you're like, no, this is too much.
Yeah, exactly,
You know?
yeah.
Even sometimes when the sun's out over here.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. People still complain here. But I think a huge part of that, like even when I was away, is like after a while, yeah, you just become accustomed to like that's your lifestyle now. So like even when I was away, it's like after a year, it just became like, yeah, it's sunny every day, and people would be like, oh, you're not out in the sun on the beach, or
You
I
have
still,
to
I
work
still have
and
a
make
job.
money.
Yeah, it's like I still have to do stuff and make money. So I'm not out on the beach like
No.
eating acai or drinking smoothies every day.
Literally.
It just doesn't work that way. So
No, that's it. I think even the work from home lifestyle or just starting your own business is really glamorized too. And it's like, listen, not even if you're doing it right, but most of the time, if you are doing it right and starting it out by yourself, you're inside.
yeah.
You're inside 24/7 to the point where sometimes even working at a cafe feels like a waste of time to get there.
Yeah.
Nearly.
Yeah, and I feel like that's even for me, like since I've been doing my own, like working for myself for like the past 6 years, from meeting people along the way of doing that, everybody else that does their own thing, it's not on Instagram. It's like glamorized as this like work from a laptop anywhere, travel the world and stuff. Realistically, nearly every person I've met works longer hours than people that work in 9 to 5. Like they wake up 9 a.m. till 10 p.m.
Yeah.
If you have like, if your job contains like clients or something, a client could call you at any time. Like you could be out on a holiday on the weekend. Somebody's going to call you and they need help or something goes down or something goes wrong. If somebody owns a business and they're an entrepreneur, it's like a constant 24/7 thing behind the scenes. Whereas on Instagram, it's like travel, smoothies, acai. It's like, it's all the stuff that's like, it fits Instagram better because not many people show the, I guess, the transparent side of like life in the background. Anybody, like any sort of job, even if somebody works in Starbucks, it's not like somebody's just taking pictures while they work. It's like they feel like nobody wants to see that. Whereas it's almost like another piece of someone's lifestyle.
Social media does play a massive role in our perception of things, though, in general. Whatever it may be. It's not even just like finances, but even mentally sometimes, I think. You know? It's like, the one thing I've noticed is that when people are quiet on social, that means that something is, like, they don't have anything to talk about anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
You feel like that's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing in a way because it's good to know that they're not, even if they're not feeling well, they're still posting. I think that is quite alarming. But I do think it's a little bit of a reflection on us nearly as a society, where the amount of like dopamine I get from posting about something that like that is something to be congratulated on, versus just like a regular thing. It's like a very odd reflection on who is really there for me, or like happy for me, versus who wants to participate in an entire group of people being happy for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I think that's something I came to realize as well, is like, so you enjoy posting, like you like when you post.
I like documenting a lot.
Yeah, and so do I. So I love like posting stuff, and I do get like dopamine from posting. But I would have friends that they just don't like social and they don't like posting. So I think the difference is when somebody's been posting consistently and then they go quiet, then you know there's like something wrong. But there's a lot of people out there that you can say, like, I kind of look into it, and the statistics like 90% of people are consumers and 10% of people are like creators. So a huge part of that is like a lot of people just don't want to make anything, and that's fine. Like a lot of people in the world like don't want to make anything or do anything, or like it sounds like it sounds kind of cliche, but like some people are just happy to do what they want to do, and that's fine. Like I don't think people need to like be pressured into posting on Instagram or pressured into posting on any social media. Whereas there is a huge craze when you are on social media to like do more and more and more. And even like as me, like on my own account or like the agency's account or anything like that, it's like there is a pressure to like post on everything, and like any sort of news I would need to post. The only difference is I can enjoy that, and I know I do, so I'm happy to do it. But I can see why other people don't want to do it.
Oh yeah, it's a job and a fucking half. And it involves putting yourself out there. There is a little bit of a risk of being criticized, you know, or it's a judgment on, like, I've had a weird relationship with social media, like on and off and on and off, and I have tried to create a better relationship with it, where if I'm not posting or if it's a hassle and it's not fun anymore, then I'm out. Like I tap in and out. Why? Because at the end of the day, I'm not being paid for it for now. So it's not fucking covering my bills. There's no point in me stressing out over something that like doesn't like pay my bills, but also I don't want to be an influencer. You know, I want a community. I want people to listen to these conversations more, that sort of thing. I understand what I have to do for it, but at this point in time, it's like it's not doing it right now. So like,
you don't have that boost of like like when you post, it's not putting like money in the bank, or like there's no real push to like force it.
Exactly. And then if I'm gonna get hated on as well at the same time, it's just like, listen.
It's like I'm not winning here.
There's only so much.
Exactly. Whereas I think like the difference for me is like my side of stuff kind of depends on posting, and it depends on posting on multiple different people's Instagrams and stuff, like on the agency side. But in terms of like my personal stuff, like if I'm editing something in CapCut, or like I'm making a video, and at any moment I'm just like, why am I doing this? I just won't upload, or I just won't make anything, because I'm like, I'm not really going to force myself to do it. And as you said, like we're not getting paid to do it, so it needs to be enjoyable. And I'd much rather like grow somewhat organically online and kind of transparently online, where you can build a community that way.
Bingo.
So
100%. Like, I'm sure you've come across like a few influencers or whatever that do social media for a living, and the fakeness, that's fucking right in front of you, mate. It's petrifying. Not even petrifying, but like it did make me like think a little bit of, am I on the right path because you see them successful and you see them getting the deals and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, oh, you know, like it gives you a little bit of fire of I want that, you know.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, do I want to be like that? That's so inauthentic. It's like we're having a meal or something like that. We're barely talking. And it's like, come on, Corey, you know, and we'll do something as if we're best friends.
Yeah.
It's so fake.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that now where like influencers in general now have kind of become, I wouldn't say pawns, but like there's definitely influencers that I follow in Dublin especially where they will just take any brand deal, and it doesn't make a difference like what the doesn't make a difference what the brand is. It's like one day they could be doing an ad for say like chicken nuggets, and the next day they could do an ad for something that they're completely against, and it's
Literally.
like I don't really see where that's kind of coming from.
Yeah. Oh my God. The Dublin influencer space is very interesting because it's very like product based nearly. It's like what this water is like holding an event nearly, and it's like, okay, I don't know how that's going to increase your sales or like brand awareness, but like it's happening. It's just like a bunch of events happening all the time.
I think it's good in the sense like I can see why influencers would do it, because it's good to kind of grow off of the back of those, because you'll meet other people at it. So I guess for an influencer it's more like a networking event. It's like if you show up, you'll meet different people that are also doing that sort of stuff. So in that sense I see it, but a lot of the brands just kind of like reach out to any influencer, and they're like, if they can get anyone to come in, as long as you have a following, like if you have like 50k or you have 100k followers, a brand is going to hit you up just to like use that. 100%. It's like they don't, as long as you have like a clean social presence and you're brand friendly, they're jumping on that.
Literally. But then all the authentic ones, like the funny ones, maybe the bit more opinionated ones, are just like nowhere to be seen at these kind of things.
Oh yeah.
Nowhere.
Like if you have like if there's people putting out like a distinct opinion on something, it's like that alienates you from like marketing. Like in general, even from my experiences, like if people are putting out like their own opinion on something that like it isn't the chosen narrative like of everybody, brands don't like that, because it's a risk. See, I can see it from both sides as well. It's a risk for a brand to do that, but a brand should also have the balls to kind of just work with an influencer in that sense, if they like the person, not the actual amount of followers that they have. Whereas
America is way better with that. I think anyways, you know, like they go all in on one person sometimes, and you're like, okay, it makes sense for us or with us. The cojones are there nearly.
Yeah.
Versus over here, it's always like safe. Like, come on, like push it a little bit.
Oh yeah, I think just in general, like here, advertising or just like anything in that sort of vein is like very safe. Everything's like very vanilla, like borderline sort of stuff. It's like keep everybody happy and keep everything the same. There's only a few companies, and when they do kind of like do something odd with their branding or like choose something odd, they stand out way more. And if anything, it's either it goes really well or it goes really bad. Just depends on who they choose.
Yes, people are quite sensitive as well over here. Not over here. I think in general it's like completely different, but somewhat on point. Do you know that there's the influencer boxing event? There's Kingpin on tonight.
Yeah.
3 Arena. There was no marketing behind that.
I had no idea, but somebody asked me did I want to go today. So
literally today, I was like, wait a second, what?
Yeah. I had no idea, like at all.
But that's what? Like that's huge.
Yeah. Because I think I think one of the like Sidemen people is there, or
Sidemen. There's Anison Gibb. There's the guy from Geordie Shore as well. RN. I'm not too sure. Like there's a couple of OnlyFans girls. Full production is happening over at the 3 Arena today. Not one thing.
Yeah, I didn't see much of it either.
So weird. Now I don't know, and I'm pretty sure they're collaborating with DAZN on it.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, huge. I think it's like a whole. That's like a whole deal they have with all of those.
But like, I wonder what the problem is here. I was actually thinking about it. I'm like, is there an issue over in the company itself where they were like too late to get on, like with media press? But also, I feel like just sending out an email to all the generic media companies, someone would have covered it.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like some sort of like
I wonder if it's not welcome here. Like
I don't know. Yeah,
get your influencer boxing out.
I have no idea. I don't know if it was like an agency just didn't pick it up, or like didn't pick it up, or maybe they just trusted like the influencers that are in the event to promote it. But as far as I know, like it's like I'm sure it's probably either younger people that watch the sidemen, that sort of stuff, and they're into the influencer boxing, maybe they all know what's happening, and I just don't. I'm just alienated from it.
Yeah.
But I didn't see a single like.
Not one thing.
Yeah. I also
Now,
don't follow anyone that's in it. So
I wonder if there's actually any like Irish influencers on the card as well. That's an interesting one.
there's the guy Ben Williams. So
Oh, your man's there.
yeah, so he's fighting.
I didn't even like he pops up on my fucking feed. Quite
Yeah,
a few
I think
times.
Fabu D, his name on Instagram is like the Black Paddy. I think he's fighting Ben Williams.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So I have no.
Why
idea.
did I not see that?
I have no idea. Yeah, and I have no
Lads.
idea. I only found out yesterday, but
I'm with Black Paddy on this.
that's what I thought. Yeah,
But Ben Williams like looks fucking.
Ben Williams is big. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's
also
huge.
yeah, like I know my cousin's garage is sponsoring Ben Williams, so I kind of need to rep him in the corner. Yeah,
Don't worry, this will go out afterwards.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
going out tonight. So.
yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I wonder if it was just like, no, this kind of stuff is not welcome here. Like.
I have no idea. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
'Cause
an
I've-
interesting one.
I feel like even with the I went to the Katie Taylor fight that was here, and it wasn't as like. I don't know if it didn't sell as much, but it wasn't as big as like I would have expected.
Oh, I was in the press week for it. I thought it was going to be huge, in fairness. It was so cool seeing Ariel Helwani in front of me. That one I was kind of like, whoa, man.
Yeah.
Even
Are you a big fan of
obviously,
his like interviews and stuff?
I love his interviews.
Yeah.
I think I don't follow him religiously, but I like to follow journalists that made a name for themselves outside of their own media company, if that makes sense. It's just like
Yeah, like people that kind of came up from like organic, like
Yeah.
their own YouTube or like their own way. Yeah.
it's like it's gonna sound egotistical, but I just want to be known for good interviews.
Yeah.
You know, and I still haven't. I've been acknowledged for interviewing people well, but it hasn't been. It's always been like the interviewer is really good. So it's like it's gonna sound funny, but like people don't come kissing my ass.
Yeah.
So like let's say if people are listening to this right now,
Yeah.
and they will come to you and tell you good job on like the interview with Deb.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't see any of it.
Oh really?
Nothing.
I never would have thought that. Yeah.
The
like
only thing I fucking get is, hey, I want to be on your podcast.
yeah, and I guess obviously the guests probably get it because a lot of people would be anxious to kind of do a podcast. So it's like, oh, fair play, like you've done it. Congratulations, almost.
Yeah.
But then yeah, like the actual interviewer doesn't get any flowers.
They don't. No. I don't
That's
get that.
interesting.
It's gonna sound weird. Obviously, I've been like 2 years into it, so it doesn't
Yeah.
like bother me anymore, and I understand the longevity with this. That's like I'm in it for the long run.
Yeah, and you kind of really need to like
Yeah,
keep that in mind.
and
when you do
also
stuff.
all the successful interviewers are like 40s, 50s.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I'm 26, so there's still a while until that. But I was quite shocked when it first happened. Like not getting any like praise or like good
Yeah.
job, you know, like you're doing great things. And it was so strange as well. Like there was also jealousy in that.
Yeah.
The more I was doing it, because then if your sound, for instance, you will come back to me and go like, Deb, I'm getting such good feedback from the podcast. Like, thank you so much. Da, da,
Yeah.
da. I'm like, what fucking good feedback?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what are you on about? I got sweet fuck off.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah, and I guess that's like it kind of makes sense. And as you said, like it's the same as kind of when you post on social. It's like it's not that you need that dopamine of like the likes and stuff, but at least if you put, especially if it's a post where, say the boxing event you went to, you
Yeah.
go to the boxing event, take a load of footage, you interview a bunch of people, you post it online. You're like, okay, I've given X amount of hours to this. Hopefully, I can get X amount back. You put it up, and it doesn't do what you wanted. That's like, it's not a good feeling, and it doesn't really give you that like push to do more. And it could be
No.
the same for you when it's like, if you interview people, or like you not even interview, but you bring people onto the podcast and you're putting your time in and you're like spending time with that person. You'd like at least some feedback that's like, that was great interview. Really like this point.
Yeah.
Really like this. And that could probably come down to, I'm not sure, but like, I've seen like at the end you would ask for feedback and stuff. So it's like people should let you know like how an episode went, what would they like to see improved. I think any feedback is better than none,
Nothing.
because it's just radio silence.
Literally, it is
Yeah.
radio silence. Now, in fairness, so like there was that jealousy thing that I had to overcome, and like it was pure jealousy, you know. And then it spiraled into, is there something wrong with me?
Okay.
You know, like why are people going to them and not me, sort of.
Yeah.
So I did have to overcome those like little internal battles. I do think that like personality wise as well, a lot of the time, a lot of people like once they get more comfortable with me, say that they were intimidated by me at the start.
Okay.
So like before, I used to take a little bit of offense to it, or it would like knock me down
Yeah.
a little bit. Like, what do you mean intimidated? Like, I'm sound. I'm just loud and Mediterranean in that sense.
No,
you know?
yeah, I actually, from my point of view, what I think that would probably be is, I think interviews or podcasts are intimidating for people.
Yeah.
A lot of people, like I know a lot of people that are like successful business people, are like big business people in general, or like they have their own business. If I ask them to do like an interview or like even a mention of like a podcast or some sort of like even a video, if you ask somebody to just record a video of their face and put it up on social media, it's a big no.
Oh my God.
So like the idea of coming onto a podcast, that's probably intimidating. They probably don't mean you are as a person. I think it's just the fact that you're the one giving the questions, or you're the one like initiating it. So it's almost like, okay, not that this person's in control, but this person's like narrating how this is going to go.
Exactly.
So I guess that's where they kind of come from.
Yeah. It's like, oh, she's confident. She doesn't need my 2 cents.
Yeah.
So like, I'll give it to the weaker person. It's like, no, give me. I'm weak.
Yeah. I mean, no. I think it's just a huge thing where people are probably just intimidated by the idea of podcasts.
I don't see why. But with that, I've seen, like, remember during COVID, there was like such an increase in podcasts.
Yeah.
And now they've kind of like plummeted down
Died
a little
off,
bit
yeah.
again. Podcasting is exciting. There are like the amount of work that goes into them, man.
Yeah.
Oh my Jesus.
I can only imagine like to have like a studio, you have to obviously like book in or like set up a time slot, get all your equipment ready, shoot it, depend on a guest to show
The
up.
editing afterwards.
Yeah, that probably takes the longest.
Oh my
Like I
fucking
don't
God.
think people understand like because obviously we do it for videos, but like audio editing is like so time consuming to like take out little bits where like you just don't want to end up in a podcast, or like somebody belches or somebody does something. It's like, oh, I have to skim through 2 hours long footage to like pull that out.
Or find it.
Yeah, or find it.
And then you store it, and like until you go back, like God knows. So you have to listen to it again if you want to do it right. You'll be time stamping it. You listen back to it, all that kind. It's a lot, and then clipping it afterwards. So it's so weird. But whenever, I don't know like about seasons and all that. I've seen a good few podcasters do it, and it's interesting. What the problem is with me is like, if I were to do seasons, I feel like the start of it is always like slow until you pick it up again, and then you get to let it go at the high point.
Yeah, and you think that's from... Do you think that's from like caliber of guests, or just caliber of like the show and the input that you're putting in as it goes on?
Probably guests, but also once people get used to you not being around, it's going to be harder to attract them again. So like you lose that audience.
Okay, you think people
Does that
like
make
stop?
sense?
Yeah, you think people stop listening for a while?
Yeah, I do think that people will stop listening people have stopped listening until I started again, and then consistently started posting again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The idea of seasons sounds lovely because fucking burnout. And also like not even lack of finances, but this is all self-funded right now. So like you do have to constantly put out, and then it's harder if something doesn't go too well, where you're like, oh, was it worth it? Not from like a soul perspective, because this fuels me and I don't regret the sort of stuff, but then more of just like cost.
Yeah, the finance side of stuff.
The finance side of stuff. But again, it's investing in yourself, you know, like this is like I don't have a car here, I'm not driving, so like I'm not paying insurance, I'm not paying fuel, that sort of thing.
Super expensive here.
Oh my God.
But I think a huge part of that, and I think any sort of like content, or any sort of like anyone that's kind of building something like a podcast, or like they're creating something like an artist or something, people don't really see the like hours that go in where there's like no reward. It's just like you sitting down to do it every day.
Literally.
And since we live in like, as you're saying with the clips, it's like since we live in such like a content heavy society at the moment, and like world, it's like that's almost like a currency. It's like if you can do as much volume as possible, you're going to get back what you're putting in
fully.
And that's a huge thing where like people don't realize the hours that go in to make that content. Like that 15-second reel you're watching probably took an hour to edit. Could have took hours to edit 15 seconds. So
and then it goes viral, and now people aren't going back to listen to the podcast. So something like, for instance, when I first started it out, if a clip hit over 100,000,
Yeah.
I was looking at an increase of like, let's say 500 listens minimum.
Okay.
People would come back and listen to it. Now it's like it can reach for like 500,000 views.
Yeah.
It's not increasing by that much, huh?
Really?
No.
And when was the most recent clip that did like really, really well?
Right now, the one that's like popping on TikTok is not a podcast clip.
Okay.
It's of me reacting to the Women's Champions League final.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because it hit the correct audience at first on TikTok. So it was like just a bunch of like women that also follow women's football, and it was really positive. And then TikTok took it like 1 or 2 weeks later, pushed it to a second audience that comments on women's football stuff, and it's a bunch of dudes that are haters.
Oh, really?
So it went from 30,000 views to 300,000 views of just hate comments.
Okay, haters on women's football.
Yeah. And I can show you like my notifications afterwards. Like it's not bad. It wasn't that bad. Before it was just like, what is the UWCL, that sort of shit. Like you can tell they're 12-year-old kids.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But now, like, it was stagnant for like 2 weeks, pushed it again. Now it's nearly at 500,000 views, and people are like now making fun of me nearly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very annoying. After that podcast clip that went viral, there was the one with Zach Moradi where he was talking about Kurdistan. It's going to sound annoying, but like when views are high, it's usually hate.
Okay.
On TikTok anyways. Bipolar, talking about bipolar disorder, that was also that kind of picked up. I had a guy, Jackson Lennon, he's a creative writer and director and content creator. He's a trans man, and he was talking about his transition that got a lot of hate. It's really annoying. It's like I just attract the haters.
Yeah, I think it's more the everybody looks for like that topic that's going to go viral on social media, and it needs to be like a topic that everyone has an opinion about.
Yeah.
So like any sort of like
Anything
gay rights, trans men, trans women,
polarizing.
any topic that's like polarizing to an audience. That's
Fully.
what picks up on social.
Fully.
Especially if there's like a potential to hate on it. It's gonna like
it goes out of hand nearly, you know what I mean? So like I don't even engage with that sort of stuff. Before, when I first started out, it was mental health stuff, like speaking about it in Ireland, that would do really well. Like it was really positive, in fairness.
Yeah, I think it needs to be on like both sides of the spectrum. So like somebody I follow is, you've probably seen him in the US, Jimmy Darts, who like he always does like charity stuff. So like he gives away like $500 to somebody that he meets, or like he'd give away money to like homeless people.
Okay.
And that stuff obviously does really well because it's the complete opposite side of the spectrum. It's like it's super good feeling to watch. Like it pulls on people's emotions, and it does really well on social. And then the opposite side is anything people can hate on. That's the opposite side. Then there's the middle stuff that just doesn't really...
It doesn't
go anywhere.
And that's the weird thing as well, because like I do think that this whole show that I'm creating is very nuanced, but it's very... not even neutral nearly, because we're talking about the extremities, but also giving a new perspective on it that provides a happy middle nearly. And I always say it that like there's always an extreme minority that are the loudest. But a lot of, I do think that this show is just a reflection on the happy middle. But the problem with the happy middle is that it's silent.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's not as like, it's not as vocal when it comes to like sharing it or like promoting it or like speaking about it or like interacting with it. Whereas if you have like the either end, like the hate stuff, they're definitely going to comment. If you have like the happy stuff, they're going to like it, they're going to share it.
Fully.
So it is like a weird space to be like in the middle of content.
Such a weird space, but also it's interesting because it's kind of like when it comes to podcasters in general, or like really big ones, you kind of have a cult behind you.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting because I love to look at Joe Rogan's feed whenever he releases an episode. Now he says that the best thing he's done is not look at the comments, which is interesting, but it's so like funny because whenever a clip goes out that doesn't cater to his loudest audience, it's like the anger in the comment section. So whenever he brings on a woman, whenever he brings on younger guests, men or women, or anything that are somewhat left, then it's fully like Joe doesn't know who his real audience is.
Yeah.
And they're just shitting on them.
Yeah.
And it's so funny as well because, like, I don't follow him religiously, but I do follow him enough to know that he actually isn't as extreme or polarizing that the media like tries to
portray him as.
Portray him 100%.
As. Like that's, I think he has like this. Like I've watched a few Joe Rogan videos, like and listened to a few podcasts. I wouldn't be like a diehard fan, but he's not as right wing or like super like right wing that people make him out to be. But it's his fans and like the fact that he has so many. When you have an audience that big, you're obviously gonna have a huge audience that are like a specific side of that. But yeah, I think he gets caught up in any sort of video he posts where if it's his own opinion, people just take it as like a right wing opinion. Or
they do. But whenever he welcomes a guest that challenges these people, it's literal pure bitchery in his comments.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny. But it's so interesting that, like, it's good to know, like, whenever I do see that, I go like, oh, you can never please anyone, A. And B, it's like people will listen and choose to listen to what will help them, like, feed their narrative nearly. Yeah,
like I think the way social media is now, or like the way everything is online, is like there's almost niches. I think I seen it somewhere, but there's a niche for everything at the moment. So there's like a niche for like people fishing. There's a niche for people into cars. There's a niche for this, and it's almost like algorithms are built up in a way where every niche now, because there's so many people online and so many people creating. Like years ago, if you wanted like funny videos on YouTube, it was like Smosh or like somebody like that was like they were funny and they were on YouTube. There wasn't many creators. Now there's like 50,000 Smoshes. There's 50,000 Mr. Beasts. There's multiple of these like people. So any of these pick up their little niche of like car people, fishing people. So everyone has their kind of place to go and place to be.
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan just has a huge mix of all of those. So it kind of just gets muddled and a mix of like all opinions.
100%. Obviously, like I would categorize him as he's got his combat sports, obviously. And then he has hunting, health, that sort of thing. And then it's comedy, you know? But they're three really big spheres. I never fully finished the book, but there's this book called What's Your Parachute? And basically it's a book meant for people that feel stuck in their career.
Okay.
And it's about figuring out what three circles, like passions nearly, or what interests you in your life.
Yeah.
And then you connect them, and ideally it's nearly like an ikigai as well, where like the center of where these three circles meet is like the sweet spot for you.
It's what you should kind of focus in on. Which makes a lot of sense, you know, like if you go, strangely enough, like whenever I would interview someone that was in the combat sports space, for instance, there would be like quite a heavy audience that would come over and be like, hey, you know, like we know you from this or we know you from that. I'm like, all right, cool. Again, don't do jujitsu. Like, sorry, you know what I mean? It's just you guys are all very fucking sound. Like, stick around, please. But yeah, like I do think it's good to share your passions, but also share your multiple passions. Yeah.
In saying that, if you go down one niche really quickly, very hard into it, you're gonna see growth very quickly. But if you want to fucking break out of it, or start sharing other stuff that interests you, it might not sit well with your audience.
Yeah, and you've probably seen that with the podcast. Whereas like if you're going down, like if you're doing a lot of combat videos back to back, like you have a lot of fighters on, boxers on, you probably make the next episode, it doesn't get as much traction, or people just don't like the guest because it's not related to those people. But I think like in terms of, in that sense of like going down one path, obviously if you focus on one thing and put all your effort into it, you're gonna see a lot of growth, as you said. But I think a lot of people have this thing of like focusing on multiple different things, and they don't get better or become anything because they're trying like too many at once. And it's almost a huge thing with people online, is like they'll try multiple types of content, multiple types of like businesses, multiple types of passions, and it's almost like they get nowhere online, or they get no traction, especially on social media, because you're just mixing up a whole pool of people.
Fair. No, that is valid. I think it's one of those things though where if you stick at it long enough, and when I say long enough, I say 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Then potentially the right people will string along and you could create an audience. If you're mixing shit up like non-stop,
Yeah.
you know, then yeah, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah. Which is, I think that's like a huge thing now at the moment.
But there's also that element, I'll move this for you. There's also an element of impatience when it comes to us as well. So like, I think with I wouldn't like blanket statement it with our generation, but I do think that a lot of people do share that if they're not good at something immediately, then it's not for me. So then you constantly start picking up new fucking hobbies, left, right, and center, and you end up nowhere because you didn't stick at it long enough.
Yeah, you didn't stick at something. Yeah, I think a huge thing I think I put it up like recently is like I've started to realize the longevity of stuff. So when I was kind of when I was first like going into anything or like going into business when I was like 18, 19, it was a huge thing of like I wanted everything. By the time I was 21, I wanted to have like, say like fast cars, a house. I wanted to have everything. But I began to realize like it takes much longer than just getting to 21 or just getting to 25 or just getting to 30. It's like you need to dedicate as much time as possible into the goals you have or like where you actually want to go. Not like all of these mixed points of like I'd like this and I want this. It's like one exact thing that you want to focus on and then do small bits to get to it. So like work your way bit by bit towards that. And I can guarantee like as long as I'm dedicating time or like anybody's dedicating time to like that one goal, you easily get closer to it. And I've noticed that like in experience is like if I can focus on one thing, chip away at the small goals of like, and they don't even need to be big goals. They can just be like waking up early, doing a task early in the day, making sure that you're getting tasks done by a set time and keeping yourself in check. You're definitely going to get to like where you want to go. It's not a matter of focusing on the when. It's just like, you know, you're going towards it.
Yeah. Like I was interviewing Lydia Day Doyle when I was going through a rough time, and I did say it, and she's like, what are you struggling with? And I was like, patience. And she's like, in what way? She's like, patience as in you wanted something to happen yesterday. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's it, 100%. You know, like there is that frustration of, no, but I'm good. I'm meeting all of these fucking things, yet X hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, valid, but also once that happens, what are you going to do afterwards? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go, like, I'm going to look at the next thing.
Yeah, you'll have like the next thing to go after.
That, and also not even just the expectations, because how often do you hear it that once you have this car, for instance, you're going to want the next one.
Car, yeah.
But not just the novelty of something wearing off, but it's like, you expect sometimes anyways, like it's probably because once you see someone driving in that car, because you're admiring the car and the person, you go, oh, people are gonna admire me.
I think a lot of people would like, I think it's more like if you've seen a car you want or a car you've always wanted, you're gonna have that passion to go and get it, and then as part of that you will see it as like, if I get that car, people will perceive me a certain way. But like on the point that you were saying there, I think there's a lot of people at the moment, and even myself included, like last year and the year before, is like I think a lot of people think they're doing enough when in reality they're not doing as much as they think they are. There's a lot of people that think like they're working very hard, but like if you actually take a step back and look at what you're doing day to day, you're just not. Like there's a lot of stuff that I think I said it to you before, but like I'm big into like stoicism and kind of that view of like everything that you have is because of your own power and like the own stuff that you've done, and basically everything you want is in your own control. So it's not like you can't blame somebody else or you can't blame the next person. There is stuff that we can't control, so it's stuff that like we shouldn't really worry about, but there's a hell of a lot of stuff that we do control, and that's like your own time is probably one of the most important things I've realized. What you spend your time on, what you do, who you're with, what you do with your time, that's a lot of stuff that I really focused on, I'd say in the last 2 years, like heavily. And what I realized was like took a step back, did exactly what I said, where I just looked at what I was doing, and realistically I wasn't working hard enough to get what I wanted, and I wasn't focused on the stuff I really wanted. I was just enjoying like a cool lifestyle, cool stuff to do, and what happens is you just become super comfortable. And I've realized that's a scary place to be. Like if you're super comfortable with what you have right now, what are you actually working towards? Or like in a deeper sense, like shouldn't your purpose be something that you're working towards that's going to keep you happy every day? And that could be a simple hobby as like, I don't know, playing football, doing a podcast, creating art, something like that. But that gives you purpose in life, and like we all need that to kind of keep going, I guess.
Yeah. A motto that I've been repeating to myself recently is cry now, smile later. And it's been really helping me. Like, so I've got the Dublin Marathon in October and stuff. So like training for that is fucking hard.
Yeah, that's insane.
But doing hard, first of all, you can do hard things. Second of all, like, it's not even about, like, I always used to look at like fitness influencers or whatever and like, oh my God, like that looks so much fun. It looks hard as shit. But then when you come to do it, there's a lot of mental barriers that you have to go through.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, you feel confident in yourself. Like doing the hard things that will get you one step closer to feeling more confident is 100% worth it. Because then it's like, you nearly feel untouchable.
Yeah.
And untouchable in a soul sense, in a
kind of like realizing, I guess, like your own like power or like what you're kind of capable of.
Fully. And the harder it gets and the more you keep showing up, the more confident you get nearly.
Exactly, yeah. Like I think in my own business and like the stuff I do, I've fully realized that in the sense of I know what I'm capable of, I know what I can do, I know who I've worked with, what I've achieved, and that's all just came from like putting in the hours and like struggling, like almost like struggling your way to get through those barriers of like, oh, I could never have this amount of like money or this amount of like clients or this amount of work to do or this amount of stuff. Realistically, what happens is as you work towards those, you start to knock them down, you realize, whoa, I actually can do this. So I'm now above this point. Then you work towards the next one, you knock that down, and yeah, as you said, you become like untouchable in a sense because you get to a place where you're just confident in your abilities. And I'd say that comes in the sense of in no matter like what people do, if it's like business, fighting, like music, any sort of industry, once you start to like believe in yourself almost, that's when you hit that point of like untouchable.
Fully. And there is that self-doubt that's going to go, like, that goes with it. And you do need a little bit of that. But it's like, once you overcome it, then you're like, okay, one step closer. I know I can do that.
Yeah.
Therefore, I can do this.
Yeah, I think you just realize it's possible. It's like, I actually can do this. Or like, it's the same as like, you've probably seen like on Instagram, I do the like Monday thoughts where it's like, I post like, every Monday I do a thing where like I post what I'm thinking and I try and be like as transparent as possible. Like I try and give like, this happened in the business, this happened in life, this happened in like what I'm trying to do. And people loved them. Like I didn't think people would actually like them as much as they do. And people always reach out about them. But the biggest driving force of that is a lot of people have reached out to like, oh, I'd love to have like a business, or I'd love to do this, or I'd love to do that.
Do it.
And yeah, the biggest thing from that is I would love people to just be like, do it. Like set it up. Try and do it. It's not as hard as you actually think it is. I think people see like any sort of goal as like a daunting thing to do. But in reality, it's like as long as you start ticking away at it or like working towards it, you're going to start to see results. It's just a lot of people give up before they get that first result or that first thing happens that can kick them over the edge of, oh, this is possible. I can do this. Yeah. They give up before it even happens.
It's that fear of failure. But I also do think there's that fear, that lack of reflection as well, where like you've survived your whole life, you know what I mean? Like the fact that someone is here, like that you're here, means that you've overcome all your problems or still going, like you're still chipping away at said problems.
Yeah.
If you trust in your future self enough that they're gonna deal with it, then like you're good. That's it. Just trust in your future self, do the work now, control the present now as much as possible, so that like I have this really bad problem of being in the present, but I do use it as a little bit of a power as well, where I'm constantly taking a step back and going, this is for future Debbie, you know, like doing this now is going to help me in the future. And sometimes I also go like, past Debbie as well, you know, so it's really interesting whenever I'm recording something and like I think of like what I want in the edit, I literally address myself. It fucking sounds lunatic, but I go like, Deb, by the way, I said this here, but I also said something before, like put that in the edit. Go back to
this part.
I'll be editing, I completely forgot about that, and I go, thanks, Deb.
You almost speak to yourself. Yeah.
Fully. And you're like, cheers, homie.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of remind yourself of what to do.
Oh my God, yeah. Anyways, like, let's talk a little bit about you, because I feel like people that follow you know where your mindset's at.
Yeah.
But how did you start out? So 6 years doing business.
Yeah, so I'd say it sounds crazy, but basically I've always been online. So like when I was in school, I've always been like playing games, used to play games online all the time. And then from that, when I was like 17, 18, kind of set up a online servers business. So I used to do like game servers for games online.
What's a server?
So a server is basically like what you need to run a game. So like if you want to play online in a game, you need a server to run it. So it's like a metal computer that's somewhere in Amazon or somewhere that's sitting in a room.
Yeah.
So I used to rent those out from Amazon. And
What the fuck?
Yeah. So I used to do that when I was like 16, 17. And from that, I needed to make a website. So made a website for that. And I was like, oh, I actually like doing this like creative side of it, making the websites, building it. Then started to do it for like cafes, restaurants, that sort of stuff. And then when I finished school, I was like, what do I actually want to do? So I knew I wanted to kind of like do my own thing from then. I was like, I want to actually just do this as a job. So I didn't go to college. I was like, oh, I won't go to college. I'll leave it and I'll just set up a business. So that's when I came up with setting up the agency Vantage. So set up Vantage. And then from there, I realized with the time I was putting into Vantage, I still had time to go to college. So I actually switched, went back and did college at the same time. So in college, just building small websites for like...
What did you study in college?
In college, I did digital tech and design.
Okay.
In TUD. It's TUD now. It was DIT. Yeah. So I did that and then essentially just fell in love with the process of like building a business and like helping other businesses. That's the main thing that I enjoy, is like helping other businesses with stuff that I've came to realize not everyone kind of understands. Or like I would speak to a business owner that's say 40 years old. They don't understand like what a website is or how a website is or what a server is or like how to set something up. They just don't understand. So a lot of people that are younger would come to me and say like, oh, how are you doing a website for like €4,000 or €5,000 or this amount of money? And it's kind of a thing where business owners don't have time to go back and learn all this stuff. They just won't. It's like they'll make that money back in a week. So that's kind of where the business came from. And I basically just did it in college for 2 to 3 years. And then when I finished, I ended up working in an agency in Dublin. Learned as much as I could. And yeah, from that kind of like the agency just grew like year on year. And that's what I've done since.
Have you been running it by yourself, or do you get the job then go to someone else and be like, build me a website?
So I did it myself at the very beginning, but now it went from, I think for the first like 2 and 3 years it was just me alone, like just building very small like websites. So I wouldn't have been making like crazy money. It would have been like almost like a hobby, but I was just living off it.
Because it's quite a slow process, in fairness.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a huge, like it's a very saturated thing. Like when I did it 6 years ago, it was nowhere near as saturated as it is now. Like to set up like a marketing agency or a website agency now, it's super saturated. And that's where like you need to really come at it from a point of like volume, or like you need to be very different to anybody else. So it was just doing the like small jobs, building it up. And then it got to a point where, okay, I need more help. So it grew to, it was then 2 of us, then 3, then 4, and now it's a team of 5. So it's a small team of 5, and we do kind of like any form of like e-commerce website. And as it kind of grew, as we were basically talking about, those pillars just began to like knock down. Of like when I was first doing it, I was like, there's no way I could have like more than just me. It's like, it's not going to get to that point. But I stuck to it, kind of built it up as much as I could on my own. And then I got to a point where, okay, I can actually afford to help, like get somebody else in. So got someone part-time, got someone full-time, got it to grow. And then the biggest pillar that kind of knocked down was one day, like we were just doing like normal outreach, and randomly the director of Honda in Ireland reached out. And that was like, we were working with like local cafes and restaurants and just kind of like bars and stuff, doing the websites. So when I seen that, I was like, this is like for me, it was like, this is a real business. It's like, this is a company. So she booked in, got on a call, and she was just super impressed with like one of the ads that we set up, one of the things that we were doing. Jumped on a call, and then that was the biggest barrier that kind of knocked down when she agreed to like sign up, and we were doing consultancy to them. So I was doing like a weekly call with Honda, basically saying like, this is what you should do with your marketing, this is what I would do here, this is how I would do this. And it was almost like a pinch me moment of, I was doing this from like my bedroom to now I'm in like my own office speaking to Honda about how to do their stuff. And that was the biggest point of like, okay, this is actually a real thing and I really enjoy it. That was the moment that I like fully, I was like, I want to do this for like the rest of my life basically. So that was kind of the whole growth stage to where it is now.
So you have employees and stuff, or are they
Yeah.
freelancers?
So I have two full-time employees and then the rest are contractors.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like,
yeah, and I think the biggest reason I like it is because the way I kind of run the agency is it's more like the way business, not the way business should be, but it's the way I want my business to be, where it's like I don't want people to have that. I never wore like a suit and tie. I never will. Like I don't have that in me to like work that way. So everybody that works with me like works remote. Like 2 people are in London, somebody's in America. It's like everyone just works where they want to be. So a lot of people just moved and they still can work remote on a laptop, and that suits me much better because my lifestyle is like I prefer to just go to the office at 10, finish at 10 at night. I don't know how long I'm going to be there for. So the business itself just made a lot more sense for me to like stick at and hopefully grow into something I could do and something that I can have day to day. And it's the same reason that I think anybody else should, if they have an interest in business, they should definitely like pursue their own business rather than work for somebody else. Whereas I understand why people do it, and I understand the 9-to-5 lifestyle. I have friends that do it that have really good salary, really good benefits, all of this sort of stuff. But in terms of like your own time and what you do with it, I think there's much more control when you have your own business, or even if you're like working in a startup sort of environment.
yeah, I think in fairness, it's like different strokes for different blokes, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really depends on what you want out of it. You know what I mean? So like with my journey, it was really different where I moved to Ireland, I got my master's degree, and just for safety, obviously, I signed up to a 9-to-5, but then COVID hit and it got really toxic and really bad. And I was signing up for other jobs, but no one would take me in. So I was like, well, fuck it, like I'm going freelance.
Yeah.
And I was working so much, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., you know, all the time. And this was also COVID, so like mentally you couldn't leave the house. But it was interesting with me because like of my different talents and that sort of thing, but also I did not care about business at all. Didn't care about growth. All I cared about paycheck, you know, happy days. So it's weird because then like mentally for me, it felt like I was an employee with different companies because that's how they were using me. Also, the way it was kind of like a creator, designer, video editor, that sort of thing.
A mix of everything.
Mix of everything. And I'm sure you can attest to it, but like in business right now, people or like the higher ups view marketing as like do everything. You have to create a website, you have to write you're a copywriter, photographer, designer, editor, God knows what fucking else. Like there still isn't that understanding that like marketing folk are different.
Yeah. That's why
it's so frustrating, in fairness.
Yeah, that's why I think agencies do well now. Like I think now is like a good time for agencies because if a company reaches out to an agency, they will have an individual person for each thing. So like the likes of like in Vantage, we have like a copywriter, a graphic designer, a video editor, a web designer. It's like
so good.
Those people just do that job. It's like I don't expect them to do a mix of stuff. But
so like a project like goes in different stages.
Yeah, like this person does this.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Whereas like from our experience from reaching out to companies, they will have one person in house that's like and we'd be like, oh, do you do email marketing? It's like, oh yeah, John does that. And it's like, oh, do you do advertising? It's like John does that. And it's like, oh, do you do website design? Oh, John looks after that. And it's like, what? How does John look after all of this? Like, how could he possibly do all of it?
I think it's because they just don't value it, but then they don't value the job, but they value the branding. And it's really silly then because John could have a really good idea, but then the moment that like pushes the boundaries a little bit and it's like, no, John, like you're not allowed to do that. You don't understand. And it's like, mate, feck off. Like,
and I think in Ireland, especially like the marketing we do here, like in general is very compared to like US clients. Like when I've worked with US or even in London, like our clients that are in London or the US, they're way ahead when it comes to like marketing. Like they understand this costs X amount of money. Whereas in Ireland, I know people from when I first worked in the agency for a year, I know people that left that agency and the jobs they were getting offered is like 24,000 a year to do everything. And it's like, how can that should be like a junior position for somebody to do one task. They shouldn't have to do like
and mentored.
everything.
and
Yeah.
mentored. Like it was so I was on 25k doing everything with no manager on top of me, you know, like it
To
was
kinda
just
show
like
you what to do.
business development manager. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I remember then with COVID, like I can't say much, but like when COVID happened and all that, like it got so bad. And that's when like the freelancer concept came in. But then what happened was that was all good. I started the podcast to actually revive my life again and get myself out there, meet new people.
Yeah.
I wasn't meeting sweet fuck all and I wasn't making friends. It's so hard to make friends in your 20s, find people that are passionate. And like honestly, the podcast was one of the best things that ever happened to me because like I've recorded so many episodes. I'm not saying that there's a certain percentage that became friends.
Yeah.
But like if you click with someone really well, it's like, oh, now I know that you're really passionate in what you do. I want to be surrounded by passionate people as well.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's such an easy excuse to make friends, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's even why, like, obviously, like, as I said, with the like transparent stuff on Instagram, I wish a lot more people would be like that, because I think people need to see like the real side of you on social media. It is exactly what you said. It's very hard to make new friends when you're over your 20s. Like, it's very hard. You're not in school, you're not in college anymore. You're just doing your own thing, and a lot of people are just working. It's like that takes up most of your day. You go home and you sleep. So if a lot of people kind of showcase more on social media and let people in a bit more, you'd make a lot more friends. There's people that have like the same hobbies that don't know you do them because you don't post about it, or you don't showcase your goals or like stuff you're working on, so people don't know what you're doing. So there's no open to just hit you up with a DM and be like, oh, hey Deb, I just seen that you do this, I'm actually really interested in that,
exactly,
want to grab a coffee. It's as easy as that. And that was a huge thing I kind of realized early, which kind of helped me, I would say, grow, not just as a person, just being able to like DM anybody. Like I would go on Instagram and DM anybody just to see, because I don't see any barrier other than everyone's kind of human, and it's like the worst somebody can say is no.
Fully.
Like if
or
you
not
hit,
even no, they'll just leave you on scene. Like
yeah, exactly. Like if you ask somebody for a coffee and they leave you on scene, or like you want to meet up with somebody and they leave you on scene, you haven't lost anything. Like it's
nothing.
Like at least you tried and you reached out to somebody. If they didn't want to meet up, there's no issue to it. Just kind of continue.
I think the issue with not even an issue, it's not even an issue really, but the intentions. Why are you reaching out to like have a coffee? You know what I mean? It's gonna sound really weird, but there's like a power dynamic too. It's like if you're asking for someone to meet up with them for a coffee to pick their brain and only pick their brain, that's weird.
No, yeah,
Stop that shit.
Yeah. There's definitely like there's definitely people that try and do it in the sense of like climbing a ladder, like trying to like basically clout chase off of other people.
Fully.
And that's like, that stuff doesn't work. But that's why I think.
But that's your responsibility as well, where like if I reached out to you for a coffee and all that, you can go on my profile, you can see that I've been putting the work in. Everyone has something to offer. I have a portfolio of something to offer because it's public. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean, in the sense of like if people were more public with it, there wouldn't be as much of a like, oh, what does this person want? It's like you can tell straight away, oh, if I was like a marathon runner, I'm sure my Instagram account would be full of me running marathons. If this person reaches out, even if they're an influencer, but I know they run marathons, it's like, oh, there's the connect. It's not like this person doesn't want to just meet up to do something or like gain something from it.
100%. That's like the main thing. And also like it's interesting because at the start of the conversation you said like there's like 90% are consumers and there's 10% creators. It's also finding that mutual thing really, because fair enough, if you don't like to post, you don't, but if you want to be closer to where this person is at, for instance, or you want to learn something from them, you have to show that like you want to be doing this. The amount of times that I receive DMs, like my inbox is just, hey, I want to be on your podcast.
Okay.
All the fucking time. All the time.
Just flooded with them.
Flooded. And it's like, okay, click on profile, one post.
Yeah.
What the fuck am I supposed to want?
Yeah, what can you pull from it to know what they do or like what they're interested in? Yeah, exactly.
And it's your artwork. It's not, and it's like, fair enough, you're working in secret. let's give you the benefit of the doubt. Why the fuck are you working in secret? It's
Yeah.
now I like the mystery and all that kind of stuff. So I don't like to announce something that hasn't happened yet
Yeah.
and is out of my control. So let's say, for instance, it's one thing if I am going to do a show and I know that I can depend on myself to be there. There's no fucking chance. If I landed a really huge guest, I am not announcing it until it's recorded and
In
saved
case they
on my
don't
hard
show
drive.
up. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. So that's like my element of mystery, for instance. I'm not going to give you all my fucking cards.
Yeah.
I'm not working in secret, though. Like, you know for sure that what I'm doing is public.
Yeah, and I think, like, on that point, I think a lot of people neglect. There's a lot of stuff that just kind of people need to realize when it comes to like social as well. Like I've met so many people, and I'll say it as well. Like I've met a lot of older people now that are like, they're in some sort of industry, and they're like, how do I grow in what I do? And it's like, okay, let me see your Instagram. They have one post. It's like nobody knows what you do online.
Yeah.
And people neglect the like opportunity of basically how I met you. It was like you probably would have came across me through Finn or like seeing what I post, and I seen what you post. So that's kind of like how we made a connection. But if people don't post online, you're just missing out on a huge wave of people that could be doing the same stuff or interested in the same thing. And like self-branding now, or like having like your own, as much as people don't want to do it, I feel like it's almost necessary in some way to have some form of like online presence where people can see what you do, what you're up to, and allow people to actually connect with you, so they can reach out and set up like a coffee or meet up and work on business together, or meet up and do a project together, work on art. It's like that's how it happens. Whereas there's a lot of people that are just like, no, I don't want to do it. That's fine. It's just you're missing out on a huge opportunity, I think.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like the WHO, I remember in secondary school when like they were trying to define health for us, and it's like the WHO says physical health, mental health, social health.
Yeah.
Social health, mate. Oh my fucking God. You need people. You need them. And if they're passionate but not with the right things, fucking flick them off. You know? It's good to not get along, or like you tried being friends with someone and like you're not in line, you know? Move. Shift over.
I have a lot of that. Like I've obviously, as we were saying, like I don't drink. Like I don't drink, or like I don't go out and do drugs, or I don't party and stuff. Like did it, like tried it all, enjoyed it all, but I just realized this isn't for me. And a lot of friends, or a lot of people I meet, that's like their thing to do. Is like on the weekend, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna do this. That's great. Like enjoy it. I'm not gonna be there. Like I just won't be there. And it's the same as like I've had friends that are like, oh, you want to meet up and you want to meet up and like drink, or you want to meet up and like do something, and I'm like, no. It's like I just don't want to do that. I have other stuff that I enjoy way more than that.
Fully.
And as sad as it is, that for me is like, or sad as it sounds, for me it's good. But I'd much prefer if somebody said to me like, oh, there's an event on Saturday, let's go grab a coffee. That to me sounds good. That to me is like, I'm gonna go to like a beach, or go to an event, or go get coffee. That sounds fun. Going to spend like €200 on a weekend does not sound fun to me.
Yeah, there's like phases in my life where I'm more social than I'm not. And when I'm more social, there is drink involved. I've been sober now. Oh my God. I stopped drinking on the 27th of December, 2022. So like I'm nearly 7 months in, something like that.
Yeah.
So like fairly new to it. I have noticed, first of all, my bank account is fatter because I'm not spending that much.
Yeah.
But like you notice, like why do people just want to hang out for a pint, you know?
Yeah.
Or in fairness, people are quite respectful. I don't get that peer pressure of, oh, you're going to drink or not.
I don't think it's as bad as it used to be, yeah.
No, exactly. I think it's also because I'm more confident in my skin, where I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah,
you know, genuinely, like I'm okay with telling people like, leave me alone.
Yeah, I'd be like that as well. But I think
I ditch as well.
Yeah, I think in Dublin though, it's probably more like, especially late night, a big thing that I noticed is when I was in Spain, there's coffee shops that are open to like 10, or there's like,
they're closed so early.
Obviously, yeah, I feel like I talk about coffee a lot. I love coffee, but a huge part of something that I enjoyed when I was there is like there's so many places that are open late. That's like, oh, let's go here and do this, or let's go and do this. In Dublin, there's just a lot of like there is not much else to do but go and have a drink in town. Like especially in the work. When I was working in town, it's like when you finish up at 5 or 6. Everybody just goes and get a pint. Like it's like you're gonna leave town and go home. Because
it's pricey though as well. Like the activity centres that are set up, it's like pottery.
Yeah.
Why the fuck is a 2-hour session gonna cost me 80 to 90 euro over here?
Oh yeah.
For me to have fun, like 2 hours of fucking fun where I'm not drinking, 90 quid? Like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, like, make it more affordable. I do think that in Dublin as well, it's like, they're setting prices
Oh yeah.
so fucking high that it's like, of course everyone wants to fucking drink, because like no one wants to travel all the way out of town to then spend God knows like how much, and even if they enjoyed it, they're not going to do it again because they can't afford it.
Yeah, because it's so much. Yeah.
Come on.
I think that is probably another point. There's just not enough like there's not enough activities that are actually like budget friendly.
Fully.
So I can see why people drink, but
Yeah.
I do think like there needs to be more stuff to do outside of drinking, especially in Dublin.
No, 100%. Even with the weather, there has to be more indoor stuff as well organized. Like, hello, why is all the fun stuff like when it's fucking horrible and miserable outside?
Yeah.
It's like, bring it in.
Yeah, exactly. Bring it inside.
Or gazebo.
I think at the moment there's a huge push though on like health. Like there's a lot more people
There
like
is.
running marathons. There's a lot more people like doing yoga. A lot of people doing like sea swims. Like all of that stuff is taken off now, which is great to see. Like I love to see like people actually doing like a lot more. That is kind of like more activity based, and you don't need to go and pay 90 euro to do it. It's like you can just go to the beach with friends or go do a sea swim and stuff. And that's been cool to see the last like year. I think that's only since COVID really. I think COVID kind of kicked off the whole. There's not like everywhere was closed, so you had to really go back to like the beach and go to the sea and like all that sort of stuff where it's outdoors, like camping, all that kind of like gained, I guess, like popularity in during COVID because you couldn't do anything else.
It is true. I love seeing the sea swim cults and the beach yoga cults. I'm like, fucking hell, man! Like,
Yeah, you drive
there's
past
so
it's like
many
it's
of
like
you.
100 people in
Oh,
like
with your dry robes.
Yeah.
Love it. But yeah, there has been like an increase of like cafes as well. Again, the timing of certain things. Open them up later. You know, like coffee doesn't end at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
It's the culture, eh? It's the culture, but then there is that element of responsibility when it comes to yourself. Like, it's a choice.
Yeah. Like
I've had this conversation so often. It's like, oh, but there's not. If I want to meet up with my friends, I have to drink. I'm like, no, you don't.
no, yeah, you don't. Like I just don't. I've turned down like so many drinks. If I'm out and somebody offers me a drink, I'm just like, nah. I'm
Do you
okay.
drink alcohol free
No,
stuff?
I just won't. No.
Yeah.
Like I would rather just get like water if I'm out. Because I don't need to taste like the alcohol free stuff. Because the thing is like for me is it wasn't like I stopped recently. It was like I never actually enjoyed drinking. Like even when I was 18, it's like I didn't really enjoy it. I would have like 2 pints and I was like,
You're done.
yeah, it was like I just didn't want any more.
Yeah. For me, the alcohol free has really helped because I love the taste of beer.
Yeah, see,
Love
I hate it. Yeah.
And I love me a good beverage. I'm a beverage gal. So like sparkling, tea, fucking coffee. Like I
Yeah.
always need flavor. So I love the concept of like having like a cold beer. The alcohol free stuff has really helped. And again, it's not like I drink a lot of them. It's fully just like one bottle and I'm good.
Yeah,
you know?
like I see I can see the benefit of like, I think alcohol free stuff is great because it gives you that drink to even just hold as a prop. So it's
Yeah.
like, instead of just standing out or like being there and like people asking questions, you can just stand there with an alcohol free Guinness and you blend in and people are not going to keep asking you all the time, do you want to drink?
Like some people just really like the taste and it's like really good to have it there. It's not shit, you know? And it's like if you enjoy going out for a pint to meet your friends, you can have that pint. You just don't need to get pissed.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
What was really interesting for me as well is I noticed that the more I started to make friends last year, the more I was getting drunk nearly. And I did started like falling down a rabbit hole of being the joker entertainer and like getting tipsy. And also because I was working so hard, I wasn't eating and fueling myself right.
Yeah.
So I was just like a fucking lightweight as well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like good at all. But what was interesting is this year, certain things that I thought it would be challenging for me to do sober were actually not, versus like other things. So for instance, I went to a Post Malone concert and I was looking around and I'm like, fucking hell, like I'd love to be pissed like everyone else over here, to enjoy my senses more, you know what I mean, and kind of like get out of my head, versus, and I know that I don't have a bad relationship with alcohol where I know I can have one drink and like not fall down a fucking rabbit hole or anything
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But it was more interesting because when I was told like you could have one drink, I was like, I know I could, but I don't want one drink. I want to be drunk in this moment. So I
Yeah.
want to challenge that. So it was really interesting, like certain things that like you think you need to be drunk for.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas like even here or in Spain, like when we went on nights out like with friends, or like when I went out with friends, like I just wouldn't, like I'd have, like if I was to have a drink it would be one, but even then
One.
it's like I just wouldn't drink, and
Yeah.
I don't need to. Like I could go and listen to the heaviest techno ever made and I would just be fine. I don't have that like which I don't know if it comes from like your own being of like what you like, the way you grew up or like how you are, but I just never had it in me to be like I need a drink to enjoy this. I love like listening to music. I love like going to nightclubs to see like the latest like light shows and everything like that. I went to Longitude recently, which was probably the youngest crowd I've ever seen.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was insane.
I've never been to a festival, right? Never in my whole life.
Oh, ever?
But I feel like I missed the boat.
Oh no.
Like, because now it's just going to be 17-year-olds around me, and
I
I'm
think
like, fuck
yeah,
no.
Longitude is definitely like that, but it was worth to stay just to see Travis Scott. But
Yeah,
like in terms of like, you can go to like EP or BD. A lot of those are a lot older.
older.
And like I've been to those, like when I was back here in Ireland, like I've been to those and completely enjoyed them sober. Like I don't need to do drugs or like drink. I can enjoy those just like completely sober. And I think either that's something you need to train yourself to do, or maybe just some people find it easier themselves.
It's just a good challenge. Why did you move back from Spain to Ireland? I know I like from watching your stories it seemed like a very big decision for you.
Yeah, and I still think it's like it's probably still unmade, realistically. But the biggest reason for me was I moved. So when I was in Ireland and the agency kind of grew, I moved to around basically. I went to Montenegro for a few months. I loved it there. Then that was in the middle of COVID, so I was living there for a while. Then I came home and I was like, okay, I really don't want to be in Ireland anymore. I'll go to Spain. Checked out Spain. And then while I was in Spain, the agency was at a point where I was making really good money. So I didn't really need to do much more in terms of, I kind of lost that push of like, let's get more clients and let's get more business and let's get more of this or just grow it. I just got super comfortable in what I was making and how I could live in a different country. So in Dublin, you obviously need a lot of money to survive. Like stuff is expensive in Dublin. So I would have needed more money to live here, but I could have lived abroad and had a really good lifestyle. So I went to Spain for the 2 years. And what I noticed in the second year was I became probably the most comfortable I've ever been in my whole life. And I was waking up at time, like I was waking up late and I was like, okay, I can do like with the clients I had, I could just work later, get the work done and finish it and just live off of what I was making. But I realized that's no way how I wanted to be. I started to like look more into like philosophy and all that sort of stuff and trying to like find, I guess, purpose and like what I was doing, because I was waking up, stuff was so easy that I just had nothing to do afterwards. And I was like, do I really want to just stay here where I didn't really have any goals that I was like working towards or anything that I could focus on?
You were targetless.
Yeah, basically I had nothing to focus on. So I realized it was because I was in an environment where it was so easy to just switch off. Like I could just skate around, I could just go to the beach, go get smoothies or like have all those lifestyle benefits. But what I realized after a while was I didn't want that. Like I didn't want to just sit around doing nothing or like sitting around having no goals or no ambition to go after something more. And I realized I'm 25 now, so I hit a point of what do I actually want to do by the time I'm 30? Like what do I want to focus on that I can try and achieve rather than just sit around living off of what I had. And I basically got scared of the idea of just being so comfortable that that's all I was ever going to have, was this like no achievable goal that I had in mind, and that was all. So that kind of triggered my brain to start thinking like, okay, am I going to be in Spain for the rest of my life? Probably not. So I'd love to have like a home there or something, or like go back. I think the country's like amazing. I think the language and stuff I loved, but I realized I want to live in Ireland, and in Ireland it's so expensive that you give yourself that issue of, okay, I need to actually figure this out and figure out how do I make more money to make this work? And I needed that. I needed a thing that was like, if you don't make money here or you don't achieve goals here, there's actually repercussions to it. Like there's stuff is gonna happen that wouldn't have never happened in Spain. So for that reason, I just never did anything on the side. So that was like a huge part of it.
It's kind of like there's grit to being here.
100%. Yeah, like that's probably a good way of phrasing it. Of like, it's hard. Like it's actually hard in Dublin at the moment for like people in general. Like everybody's finding it hard with the cost of stuff. Like a coffee can be like €6.
Yeah.
Like you at Starbucks, you're paying €6 for a coffee. So it's super expensive to go to these places. And the only way out of that, from looking at it as like a realist point of view, is you just need, like, it sounds crazy, but you just need more money. Realistically, there's no other way around it than you need more money. And for people working jobs and stuff, that's difficult. But with the rest of the time you have, there's other ways you can make more money. So there's other like passions that you could have that could make money, that people always, someone could want to make candles, or someone could want to make like I don't know, bows or something, and they put it off because they're like, oh, I could never do that. But realistically, why not? It's like you probably finish work, go home and clock out for the day, and you don't want to do anything else. But in reality, putting the time into that can create like another source of income that can actually bring stuff in. So in terms of grit, like Dublin is probably one of the most expensive places in the world. So that is what's given me that kick to like work more on projects and make more money. Essentially, that was like the biggest kick to come home, because the stuff I want in life are gonna cost more money. So that's kind of like the realization that I came to.
Would you say that like your goal is to be rich?
No, I wouldn't say it's to be rich, but it's to be comfortable with what I have in terms of money. So the way I see money is kind of, I've always seen it as safety. So this is something that I remember when I was in Montenegro. I was living with a friend, Dan, and he could never understand that kind of like meaning, that I was like, I want more money for safety. And he was like, what do you mean for safety? Like, what's the whole purpose of that? And it's that idea where I want to be at a point where if something came up health wise, car blows up, something goes wrong, I have money to where I can pay for that.
And you don't need to think about it.
Exactly. I don't need to think about it, and I don't need that stress, because I grew up with a single mother. So like she would have had like the stress of like raising me and my brother like the whole time growing up. And I've seen when you don't have money and how things can be when there's bills or there's like stuff that is needed to be done, where I just don't want that. And I know from experience and from just like research and actually putting time into it, you basically need to put in more work to get more money out, and money can give you that safety of, I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like it's a difficult fucking hamster wheel to be in, right? Because I do think that the world is not lacking hard workers. We have hard workers. I do think that we have quite a bunch of selfish board members that are soaking in a lot of the money and expecting their underpaid workers to work harder, pretending that they're going to pay them more and reward them.
Yeah, I think the corporate side of stuff like that is definitely a kind of hamster wheel in a sense, or like when people say like a cog in a wheel. I fully agree with that, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think in Dublin, people get like, if you work at a point where you can get to a senior level, like I know people that are on salaries of like 100k, they can get a house and like they can afford stuff to get. It probably just took them years to get there. Yeah. So like a friend, for example, would have worked in the same job. When I went self-employed or set up a business, he went down the route of master's degree, business, college. So like we've always been side by side in the sense of I can see what he struggles with when he was getting like 20k, 30k, 40k, 50k the whole way to now he's on like 100k. That just took him a lot of time, and he went down a path that was kind of built to get to that point. The only difference with mine is there's no concrete amount that you're going to make. There's no like, you don't just keep going up this ladder to make a set amount. And I fully believe like in the corporate sense, they are kind of just at a point of, let's get this person in on 25k, get them to do a bunch of stuff and pay them the least amount possible. And that's kind of the way everyone's programmed to go to secondary school, get your college degree, get a job on this wage, wait years, and then you'll probably get to this point, which is kind of frustrating for someone because you have to wake up and do the same thing every single day.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Look, it's a stoic thing. You are in control.
Yeah. Like,
you can peel the onion further, and like there are responsibilities and everyone needs money, especially in Dublin, to survive.
Yeah.
Correct. If it really is that bad that you feel like the weight of the world is crippling down on you, and you don't have anyone depending on you, because again, let's put it this way, single mother household, your mom wasn't going to be like, okay, willy-nilly, like, fuck these 2 sons I have, I'm going to like start an Etsy business.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Very different. But like at our age, with this context of like we are in our mid-20s, we have time to steer the wheel.
100%. And I think it was actually a point that I forgot earlier, was when you're talking about how essentially like when people go down a path, I think people forget that like now is a good time to take risks, because especially if you have a college degree and you were brought up in Dublin, there's a lot going for you that a lot of people in different countries don't have. Like, you're in a place where there's a lot of safety, there's a lot of supports, there's a lot of stuff from even the government that you can take advantage of in terms of like grants and stuff that can help you set up a business. Anything like that, to where this is the time where if you want to go off and try and set up an Etsy business, you can go and do that for 2 years. There's always a fallback of you can just go back to a job. I meet a lot of people that work in, say, a retail job, and they've been in it for 4 years, and they're like, I'd love, basically from my DMs are always a lot of stuff like that. That's like, I'd love to do what you do, or I'd love to like work for myself, or I'd love to have a business. And as we were saying, like, why don't you? That's a huge point of, I'm really trying to say, why don't you? Because you can go off, do these things, and if it doesn't work out in 6 months, a year, 2 years, you can go and apply for a job again. Like, you can go and get a job in a retail place again, and the salary is going to be probably the same. If you're in a place where you're on like 60k, or you're in a place where you're on 100k, that's when it becomes risky, because you're going to have more dependency, and you've probably committed 5 or 6 years to get to that point. So you can't really pull the plug as easy. I fully understand that. But there is a lot of people I come across that have, I would say, like a normal job that can take a risk, go and do something else, and then come back and get the same job if it doesn't work out.
Fully, 100%. I remember at the start of this podcasting journey, I landed an interview with D-Rock, who would be like Gary Vee's right-hand man. He's his videographer. Okay. And we got chatting about working for free. And I remember like pushing him a little bit, because he was constantly going like, look, you are in control. If you work for free, like, again, I really want people to make sure that we're not fucking like, don't be sensitive about this. Like, we're talking about like what you can control. Yeah. And very specific to our context. But he was saying that he wanted to make it as a videographer. So he was reaching out to a bunch of people saying, look, I like you, I'll do this video for you for free. So his strategy was, I'm doing one piece of work for them. It's not like I'm a whole intern, you know, like I was still getting like paychecks somewhere else. Yeah. But because I wanted to do this, I was willing to put the work in for free. Then he was saying, by working for free, it put him in control, because if this client wanted to be a bitch, he's like, I'm not charging you. Yeah. You know, like,
so I just won't do it.
He'd abandon the project, which makes a whole lot of sense. But with that, then he offered Gary Vee a film. He had to chase him a good few times. And after that, like, he got employed by Gary to fucking travel the world, do his whole thing, you know, and be a creative while also being employed. Being employed for something that you love to do, that ticks all of your boxes, and also gives you that security, is not a bad thing at all. Exactly. I think a lot of people as well, like when we do have these conversations, a lot of people get defensive, like, oh, the 9 to 5 is not all that bad. It's like, look, if you're one of the lucky few, I'm one of the lucky few that now manage to steer away, because I don't care about business, to steer away to being employed at a schedule that's really good, but also fucking ticks all the boxes for me, and I get to do what the fuck I love, and I get full creative freedom. Happy days. Yeah. Talk to me in a fucking year. Let's keep going. You know what I mean? The opportunities are there. It's more just one of those things where if you want to paint, but you're an accountant at KPMG, there's a problem over here that might fester into a huge deal when you're older. You know what I mean? Once you like start a family and that sort of thing, are you going to be miserable? Do you feel like you missed the boat entirely? That, I think, is the point that probably you're trying to make here as well. Yeah. I think that's kind of the fear that I had was,
am I getting to a point where I'm going to miss out on these like opportunities to kind of put in the hours and work hard to do it? And yeah, as you said, like for people listening, it's not a point where if you're working a 9 to 5, it's a bad thing. It's not. If anything, there's so many more benefits to it as well.
You have more time after work.
Yeah, exactly. You can enjoy time off and you can do that stuff. And not everybody needs to be this glamorized like entrepreneur. Like it's what I put on my story all the time as well. Is like, you don't need to glamorize like the entrepreneurship lifestyle. It's actually, there's a lot to it that's difficult. The same way there's stuff in a 9 to 5 that's very difficult. So you don't need to be anything else than what you want to be yourself. So if you want to own a business, the only point that like we'd be making is the opportunity is there. It's just a matter of taking the risk and going for it.
Yeah.
And the risk is putting in the time, working towards it. And if it doesn't work out, there's always fallbacks, especially in Dublin. I feel like a lot of people misplace their judgment on that when they have so much going for them here.
Oh my God. I had this chat with Robbie G when we were talking about being in Dublin, and I was talking about how obviously I'm a foreigner and how much I love it. Like, I love being here. The fucking opportunity that's sweating out of these fucking pores is endless. And it is a matter of perspective, you know? Like, people really, I do see a lot of Dubliners like shitting on Dublin, calling it a kip and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's messy, but if you go to fucking New York, it's also messy.
Exactly.
You know, like anything that comes with a big city is going to have this issue. Fuck me, even if you go to counties in the west now and you go in the city centre of them, you're going to see the same fucking problem, people on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like it's a problem that's exclusive to Dublin. And Robbie did agree with me on it, and he did say, he's like, yeah, a lot of people won't agree with you on it, but like, it really is what you do behind closed doors and the amount of work that you put into it. It's only a matter of time and not giving up that you will see the results.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's funny because Robbie as well, like, I met Robbie online. So like, if I didn't do like any sort of content or didn't do anything on Instagram, I would have never met Robbie either.
There you go.
So through that, I met him. And then when I was doing going back to when I was in school, that's when I met Robbie. So like, I was doing the game servers when I was talking to Robbie. So we played games together.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and that became a thing of, I got to see the fact that he was just sitting at home in his bedroom working on music all the time. And the thing I would say about him is like, he would always just like every single day consistently make music, make a beat, delete it, make a beat, delete it, make a beat, delete it. And he'd keep doing it until he got better and better and better over time. So it's great to kind of see where he is. But at that point, we kind of had that bouncing friendship of like, he would say basically like, oh, I can see like, if you keep doing this, like, you're going to go far, like, you're going to be able to have your own agency, you're going to be able to do your own stuff. I thought the same for him, and like, look at where he is, and luckily like, I'm in a good spot now as well. So that's great to see. But I think a point like that he made as well is there's so much opportunity in Dublin, and so much that people take for advantage. The fact that like, there is so many opportunities that people don't jump on.
Yeah, I think it's because they don't want to.
Yeah, exactly, which is fine. And I think that's the point of this like kind of podcast as well, I guess, that people need to take into mind is, as we were saying, like, you don't need to do anything. It's just, if you want to, the opportunities are there. And from traveling, I've met so many people that were like, I don't like my country, I don't like the city I'm in, I don't like where I'm from, I don't like what I do. Same thing you hear in Dublin, I don't like where I'm from, I hate how expensive it is. Then the likes of, say, like a Spanish person you'd meet in Dublin that works here, works in a cafe, they make way more money than they'd make at home. A lot more opportunity for them. They don't complain. And they just enjoy what they do. They have a lot more stuff that they can do as well. They can go home. They have more money as well. So there's a lot that other people are seeing that people in Dublin don't see.
Oh, 100%. Like, the housing crisis is fucking horrible. The way certain things are being run is fucking horrible. 100%. But I think if you have a roof over your head, if you're fucking managing to pay rent, and hopefully your landlord isn't a fucking shit nut job, which in fairness they are, it's like, there is so much that like you can figure out. It's figuring it out as well, you know, like not knowing where to start from is a beautiful thing, because then like, so much information is gate kept, but then once you fucking get it, you know how long it took me to fucking figure this piece out and like purchasing equipment and going, fuck, this is the wrong cable. I have to wait another fucking 5 days. I need to do this, you know?
Yeah.
But then you get it. And if you put in the work, then the right people are going to come along, recognize your talents, and hopefully take you on.
Yeah, whereas that's like a huge point that I was kind of making as well, is the fact that if you're online and you're doing stuff, people can see what you're doing. So the likes of you, say, for a podcast, if somebody wanted, they could probably reach out and just ask, oh, I need to get like lighting set up for a podcast. Where can I go to actually get these items?
Yeah, Amazon.
Exactly, yeah. And you could say like, this is the brand, this is where you get it.
Yeah.
And there's so many people online like that. Somebody I met online really early on, Garrett Flower, he had a startup called Park P&P. So essentially you can just rent out your parking lot, your garden as a parking space in town. So if I was in town, you can basically rent it out for like €6, €8 or something.
Yeah.
So that was the first person I met that was an entrepreneur in Dublin. Got to basically talk to him as almost like a mentor. And then I realized, okay, this guy is a multi-millionaire. And he's speaking to me, he was just like a normal guy. Like, it was just like, this is a guy that just likes to do business. He likes to get coffee on a weekend just like me, and he's just a normal guy. It's not like this insane thing.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him. He was happy to just DM back.
Fucking
so
hell.
there's a lot of that where if you could give like a crazy example of if you're a footballer and you just wanted a certain pair of football boots, just reach out to the guy that has the football boots and say like, what brand are they or what pair are they? Whereas a lot of people seem to have a fear of if it's Robbie, like reaching out and just being like, oh, what sample is this, or like what plugin is this? I'm sure if somebody wanted, like if somebody's genuine, they'll just reply. If they do see it, some people are busy, but if they see it, they'll just reply.
Yeah. And
people need to kind of not be afraid of like social interactions online as much.
your fear of looking stupid is stopping you.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it. And at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of stupid bastards just walking around. Like, we're all fucking ignorant when you think about it.
I think
in some ways.
it's a huge point of like everyone's trying to figure out their own thing as well.
Yeah.
So even with the people traveling and stuff, or like people doing, when I was saying like people caught up with like escapism, people are just trying to figure out what they're doing as well. So like people need that time of like a year or two to like go to a different country, or like a lot of people I know that went to Australia, a lot are coming back. A lot of people that have gone to like different countries, a lot are moving back. And it's because once you go away, you're like, okay, I've done it, I'm away. Am I going to stay here? I don't really know.
I think it's also like it's very confrontational when then you go like, okay, am I going to find a life partner here? Like, there's certain things that you start thinking of too, where it's like, I'd like to start settling down. I'd like to find someone that like I'm going to spend the rest of my life with, start a family with, buy a house with. Are you going to fucking find that in like on a random island? If you're lucky, yeah, you will.
Yeah, exactly.
If not, swiping on Tinder isn't going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, definitely not. I think Tinder's definitely not the way. But I think when the whole goal of a lot of people is like, I'll move away, I'll get a job in this country. Say we use Australia, for example. People will go to Australia, and as I was saying, like, you give yourself the 5 or 6 months to really, you're enjoying yourself. Like, you have a bunch of money saved. Like, everybody always goes with like 5k, 10k saved. They go to the parties, they figure themselves out, they go there. After the 6 month mark, you start to realize, okay, I have to get a job that I probably would have had back home, and now I need to try and build a lifestyle here. And then after a year or two, you'll probably start to realize, okay, do I want to have a family here? Do I want to have do I want to have kids here? Am I going to find somebody here I'm going to be with?
Yeah.
Do I want to buy a house here? Or do I want to like live here? And in reality, I think a lot of people hit that switch of, okay, I either stay or go home.
And that's and I think that's beautiful as well, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I made the decision to leave, right? I wasn't too happy in my country, but I also was one of those kids that I didn't like the weather there. I didn't like the lifestyle there. I was also heavily inspired by opportunity.
Yeah.
And that country didn't provide the opportunity for me. I'm reaching 5 years over here. For me, it wasn't a matter of I need to escape. It was, I know that I have outgrown that. Also, it's so small that you can't even see it on a map. But there are a lot of things where you think of where it's like, okay, if I'm going to have a family, I know that they won't have their grandparents, they won't have those Maltese grandparents fucking with them all the time. It's going to sound fucking ridiculous as well, but if I pass away, where am I going to be buried?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Stuff you have to think about.
That's stuff that you have to think about, but it's also very true. And I do like to ask these questions to foreigners that have lived in Ireland for like 20, 30 years, where it's like, oh, my kids are here now. Oh, like this is my life here, so this is where I'll be.
Yeah.
But it's a lot to think about, eh?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to Australia. Are you ready to start a family over there? In fairness, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I've thought of Australia because the climate is similar to Malta. There's a bigger Maltese community over there. And yeah, it's just like, I love the sea, I love sun, and I really like good food and good coffee. And sometimes in Ireland, in Dublin, the food situation,
It's not the best.
fried chicken is not my fave.
Yeah.
But in fairness, like, you can find the good spots. So there was a lot to think about. But then it's like, am I ready to start off all over again and make a huge decision?
Oh yeah,
It's a huge one.
I fully came to the conclusion that like if I don't stay here, I'll move back to Spain. That's
It's a
it. Like,
European thing, eh?
yeah. There's no. Yeah. I've never had an interest in, like, when I was talking about like escapism. I think a lot of people, when they're in that mindset, they'll choose somewhere that's really cheap because they just want to go somewhere that they can live really well cheap. So they'll
And
choose
then you
like
can't order a coffee.
yeah, they'll choose Bali, they'll choose like
Yeah.
Thailand, or they'll choose like Spain, somewhere that's cheaper for people in Dublin. That's where people will go. But when people go to like Melbourne, so like I have a friend, Simon in Melbourne, like he's working as a barber there now. He's on really good money, like really, really good money. He's in a barber shop that just wouldn't exist in Ireland. Like it's it's levels above, and that's kind of the benefit of Australia. Is like it's almost similar,
That's
and they
it.
have everything that like we would want, but probably like a few years ahead. Like they have a lot of stuff that we would want. So I see that side of stuff, but the side of like choosing to go to the sort of cheaper climates, especially if you have a job and you want to work in the same industry. If you work in IT here and you go to Spain, your salary is going to be cut in half, probably more.
That's it. I think for me, like, the reason why I'm so happy to be here and have stayed here is because I know if I go home, I'm not going to find the same thing, you know? So I leveled up.
Yeah.
If you're going to move country to level up, whether it may be a bigger company, same job, bigger company, same job, bigger salary, or completely different lifestyle that suits you, do it.
Yeah, that's it.
If you're going to do the same shit for cheaper somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Because I can tell you, if you go and do it the cheaper route, you're just going to get super comfortable, and then you'll start to realize, okay, this is actually not testing me at all, which is what happened to me. But if you're going to go somewhere to like level up, go to somewhere that's like, it's not that it's going to be difficult. Like say with the housing crisis, there's property in say like Glasgow that's really cheap. Have friends that live there. You can go to Glasgow, live there, and you also have, it's very similar to Dublin, similar weather. The salaries are like somewhat equal. You can still work in like European companies and stuff. So go there, go to London, go to where else would give you a good salary, like parts of America, Australia. All of these are like places where you can go to level up. Whereas if you're going to like Bali or a country like this, it's like nobody's really going there to like level up unless you just work completely online. There's no company in Bali that's going to be able to pay you what you're getting here or like any equivalent to what you're getting here. So you're not really going to level up.
No, that's it. Matter of perspective, I guess, eh? And just accountability, reflection, and
I guess it goes back to kind of like the Stoic thing of basically realizing like what you can control yourself and then focusing on what you want, not what I want, not what Corey wants, not what Deb wants. It's what you want, like the listener or the person that's watching. It's like whatever you want to do. There's a multiple options available for you to do it.
Yeah.
Whether that's just like sticking to the job or starting a new business or starting a new hobby. There's a lot of ways to do it.
And you'll figure it out. I think that's it. Like, this is not rocket science we're dealing with. It's also not life or death. That's the one thing that has really helped me. Even if I had like an angry client or that sort of thing that was making a huge deal, this is not life or death we're talking about. It's a fucking post. It's like writing the wrong thing in a form and you have to do it again.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
And realistically, the biggest thing I came to learn is there's always somebody that's already done what you're trying to do. So usually there's somebody in a place that you want to get to, and you can reach out and ask for help. There's a lot of people you can reach out to that have already done what you're trying to achieve, and they can just pass you the torch. Whereas if you're trying to figure it out yourself, you're making it much more difficult for yourself than just reaching out and asking for help.
Yeah. I think there's that stubbornness that people have to overcome. Like, be open for help, ask for help, and Ask it in the right way too. You know, your intentions do have to be right. But yeah, like there's horrible people out there, but there really are some good ones.
Yeah, and even the example of like D-Rock doing stuff for free. I know a lot of people that are like, they have this weird dignity thing of like, oh, I'm not going to do something for free. But I've learned from experience, it's like you could do that one thing for free, and the next time, best believe the guy or the girl's going to invite you back to do something else.
If you're good.
Yeah, like you're gonna get called up again because it's like, oh, this person did it for free. Next time you're getting paid, or next time you can ask for money.
That's it.
And that's where you can start to actually like level up.
Yeah, it's about taking an opportunity and being hungry. That fucking hunger, man, it goes places, takes you places. Now, considering this conversation, are you gonna start your own pod?
I was thinking about it.
Are you?
I was talking
are you
to you about
convinced?
it. I think I'd like to have a podcast where it's, in a sense, I'd probably do stuff where it's more transparent, based on showing like the life of entrepreneurs or the life of artists or the life of people that are trying to do their own thing. So like, I know a lot of people have like clothing brands in Dublin, people that are artists, people that own businesses, getting them on and just having a kind of like a back and forth conversation of what's the day-to-day life, what do they actually do, how can people kind of do it, that sort of stuff.
Are you gonna do it?
Yeah, I think I'll do it. The only thing is there won't be a pressure of like an episode every week or something. It's going to be like an on-the-fly thing, because I think that's the biggest mistake, is trying to commit to episode every week. It's probably just going to be some sort of every 2 weeks, every month there'll be an episode. But yeah, I have like a place to shoot it, I have like all the stuff to do it.
Yeah. I think bi-weekly is really good, or monthly. Having a pattern helps you stay accountable and like gives you that urgency of like, oh yeah, I need to put out an episode. Weekly is a whole job in itself, you know what I mean? Yeah. But fucking podcasting is so much fun, man. Having conversations is so much fun.
I think, yeah, and it's something like, there's been so many times where I'll have conversations similar to this where it's based on art or business and stuff, and it's like, oh man, I wish this was being recorded, or I wish I had a microphone right now. So a lot of that stuff is stuff I want to put in the podcast, basically just genuine conversations with people that are probably working towards something that somebody else is working on, and they can see that and say, oh, I want to do that, and this guy's doing it, or this girl's doing it. So that's the whole premise of it.
Unreal. Yeah, I'm excited for you. I really hope you carry on and like get that microphone. Yeah, I'm excited to see who you'll interview too, because like I'm not familiar to the business side owners. They're all fucking working in silence, man. Yeah,
like I think that's a huge point. Is like a lot of business owners, like they're working away, or else their accounts are kind of just like ran in the background. Whereas when you get somebody on like that, you can start to realize, as I said when I met Garrett Flower. Yeah,
there's multimillionaires among us.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like in Dublin, there's a lot, and people don't realize that. Usually, it's just like, not in the sense of it's your neighbor, but it's just a regular person, like a regular woman, regular man. It's just it's somebody that did exactly what you're trying to do, stuck it out, and made this amount of money. That's probably your goal. Or
like the business owners that I find so impressive are the ones like your man, like Gareth, where it's not glamorous, but they're making a shit ton. Yeah. Like, oh, my dad owns, or my mom owns an air conditioning company. Yeah. But then you look at their fucking house and it's a massive villa and all that. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, like if you go to like, you drive out to like Howth or Clontarf and stuff, like you'll see people that have like crazy houses, crazy cars. Like there is
and it's like waste company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have like a generic, like they sell rubber bands or something. Like I love that stuff. I love to find somebody where like their business is just a thought they had, and it's like, oh, I knew there was like a shortage of eco-friendly paper, so I set up an eco-friendly paper company. Crazy. I was like, oh, what do you do?
I feel like those are the like businesses that are super impressive, where like they identify a fucking gap and the need before everyone, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense, but you also swallowed your pride, because like renting out your fucking garden for a parking spot makes so much sense, but it's not like a social media agency, or like there's that creativity and like
like you can't just post pictures.
It's not glamorous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, look at me in my fucking yard.
Like there's a lot of businesses like that. Like I know somebody that owns a waste management company. So like looks after like recycling stuff, and it's like multi-millionaire, and it's like he's just a regular guy.
Yeah. Or those that like connect food to like supermarkets, that sort of thing. Like they identify it. In fairness, there are certain businesses that have been there for fucking 50 years. Yeah. They're not going anywhere. So you do have to create something new. But I do like, those are the lucky ones that got a creative idea and acted on it.
Yeah.
You know, I do like it's gonna sound really woo woo, but I believe in that.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's very like woo woo.
Okay.
But like ideas not jump from brain to brain, but like it hits you.
Okay.
If you don't act on it, you're gonna kind of like forget about it.
Yeah.
Or it's like, oh fuck, what was that thing? That idea left you. Like
And
it went on to someone else.
You think somebody else picks it up?
Fully. Let me explain this to you.
Okay.
Now this is gonna be really fucking woo woo.
Yeah, interesting.
When I was 8 years old, I was always a mad fan into like directing and videos and all that before like YouTube. And I remember going, when I grow up, I'm going to get Pocahontas, and instead of cartoons, it's going to be like actors.
Okay.
You know? So again, I'm not the original fucking idea person.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, God knows how old I was, fucking 15, when I first saw like the first remake of like a Disney film, like a live version. I was like, fuck.
That's my idea.
Like, that's my idea.
Yeah,
Obviously, it wasn't my fucking idea, right? Something really simple. But that fucking energy that I had of like, no, I wanted to do that, you know, it got taken away from me. I am very possessive with certain ideas now, where once it hits me, even if I don't act on it, if I write it down, I kind of like claimed it from myself nearly.
Yeah.
So whatever I want to do with it, now I kind of brainstormed it, it's mine. It's like good to go. I remember having, like, I still haven't figured it out, but like, I wanted to describe a gut feeling and going with your gut, because there was a point in time in my career where I was getting massive red flags, but doing them anyways because a carrot on the stick was dangled in front of me.
Yeah.
And I was ignoring these red flags from people and then getting fucking like treated like dog shit.
Yeah.
I had that feeling, and how people can like prevent themselves from like avoiding those situations, but I never wrote it down, and it was with me for like 5 days, and then I was like, fuck, I missed it. The chances of me then seeing a TikTok of someone explaining it, I feel like it's just I do think that there is like a creative thing that like comes to you, and then like you could miss it, and it can go
gets passed on in a sense.
It kind of like gets passed on.
I definitely think that's like it's definitely like a phenomenon that happens where like there's some sort of like if you have an idea and you don't do it, somebody else will. But I think every idea you have, somebody else has probably already thought of.
Exactly.
So it's just they didn't act on it.
Exactly.
And a lot of people as well use that as. I'll give an example of like somebody wants to open a news agent. It's like, oh, there's thousands of news agents. Why is there thousands? Because they all are successful. A lot of them make a lot of money. Same way, someone would be like, I want to open a clothing brand, but this person has a clothing brand, so now I can't do it. Why can't you do it? Just because it's not like a unique idea doesn't mean you can't do it. Anyone can kind of like pursue that idea and just outdo the other one, or be level with it. Yeah.
And then once you throw yourself into it, eventually you will find the thing that makes you stand out from it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
From the others anyways. So yeah, no, it's fully like, it's fun. I think being creative is something that I'm very grateful for every day. You know what I mean? And I'm so fucking happy that I took that leap and I took that jump, and like it all accumulated to this nearly. And I'm not even like there yet. I feel like even for you, you're not there yet, but we'll never be there yet, because we're going to keep going, because we do have a strong foundation.
Exactly, yeah. I think there is no like there is no end goal. It's like, as you said, like once you get to that goal, there's going to be the next one. But
100%.
I think as long as you have that kind of like set in stone of what you're working towards, that gives you purpose of like when you wake up in the morning, you know what you're working towards and you're happy to do it. Yeah. That's probably like one of the best things I have at the moment. 100%. Is like knowing what I'm working on, putting my hours into, and enjoying the day to day of just doing that.
Yeah, that's it. Corey, what's your Saturday thought?
Saturday thought?
Although it's not branded #Monday thought.
Yeah, it's not Monday thoughts. So
okay.
I'll allow you to do a Saturday thoughts.
Fuck you.
Yeah, but I think it'll be. I think a lot more people need to kind of pursue what they want in life and not become so comfortable with what they already have. So go after stuff that you think you can't actually achieve, but in reality, there's a lot of safety nets there for you to fall back on. Yeah,
I like that one. 100%.
What's yours?
I'm trying to think of one that's, because I feel like this entire conversation is a thought.
Yeah.
I'd say failure is not embarrassing at all. And trying is super impressive, but also do hard things for yourself, and then you'll find that confidence. So
100%.
and you don't need to be confident to start. Confidence starts from acting and doing.
Definitely, yeah. I think even with like what you were saying with like the podcast, like podcast guests earlier and stuff, that sort of stuff is like once you start, like once you do it, or like once you go in front of like a camera and make a reel, or once you start doing this stuff, not everybody's just confident straight away.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you have to jump on, get some hate, and then after a while you build up an armor towards that stuff. So people need to kind of dive in, learn as they go, and then see how far along they get.
Stick at it. 100%. Thank you so much for joining me, Corey.
No worries at all.
I had fun.
So did I. It
was a good one.
Good conversation.
Fact. There you go. My soul feels like
nourished.
Yeah, exactly. I'm ready to punch a bag or something.
Nice.
Anyways, thank you for listening and watching. Bye bye.